Hi guys, going to continue where we left off on our last clip, which was our Death Star hangar. In this clip I'm going to show you how to create some blast doors. Strangely enough, there is no toy in your toy box to do this, not yet anyway. So I'm going to show you how to build these closing doors. And if you shoot them again, how they will open up and within your toy box. It's quite tricky, so you'll need a bit of patience on here, but I hope you enjoy this clip. Right, so this is the space before we built the doors. So the first thing I'm actually strangely going to do is going to insert 7 basic square blocks. So you see I'm putting 7 on a line. Now these square blocks are purely to help me line up my path tool. So I'm putting 7 in a row, and you'll notice I made sure there's 3 spaces away so they're not in the way of where I want the doors to appear. It's purely to help me guide when I'm creating my path and line everything up. So I'll put these 7 blocks in, and I do this occasionally on other things when I'm building, just so I've got them lined up correctly. But I'm just going to go back to my creativity toys. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the path toy, so the path creator, and I'm going to bring it the first set. Now I line up with the first box, yeah? So this is box 1, and then I go across 5 boxes. So box 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure it's in the middle and click 1. So I only have 2 points, a starting point and an end point. That is the sliding door along the bottom. So circle out there to come out there, that's changed. Now same place, exactly like the same location, but this time it's going to be up higher and it's going to be in level with the top of the ridge of the door, which is 2 blocks high. So in that case, click onto there, and again I want 5 squares. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's my second door. So between the two, they're set up. So they are my 2 lines, one going along the bottom and one going across the top. Make sure though that the green ends are at either side and not in the middle, because they slide in from the side and come into that option. Now with blast doors there's 2 levels to it. Okay, so we need 2 sets of these. So on the opposite now I need the opposite side. So I'm going to go all the way across and bring this back. But you'll notice there's 3 squares between those 2 gaps. Okay, so on this screen here I'm going to line this one up. So I'm making sure I'm exactly the other box to the side. So along the bottom here now, so this is the other side, so drop that down. So there's the first set, I'm making sure I'm lining up, so you've got 1 set, 2, so they're bang on the middle on the third option. So now line the next path, and again I need these to be the 5 squares across, and line it with the 5 squares. And you'll notice also, once you've done the top one, I can line it up with the top dot. So circle out to there, come back to the top, now scroll that all the way up to the top. Okay, press my once on the button on screen and then move all the way across, and I can line that up with the one as you'll see down below. I've lined that perfectly. So they are my 4 basically sliding areas on my door. But please be aware that it goes from green on the outside and to the yellow points in, but you only do 1 point, don't do 2 points, just do 1 point. So now we've created our channels and I've got them lined up. These bricks are no longer needed, so I can get rid of those. So let's get rid of these to help me line them up and delete these out. Now this clip is quite long and it'll take some time to do, so the measurements are important that I give you. So what we need now is some bricks at a diagonal shape to slide across. It took me a while to work this one out, so what I'm going to do now is go back to my basic shapes, and what I'm going to do is just going to build you how I would like the sliding panel to look. So we're going to have a panel here at the end, yeah, so there'll be 1 section there, then we're going to go up and it's going to look like that on the screen, and then I'm going to have 2 square boxes underneath to fill it in. So that is a sliding panel. Yeah, so there is my panel. They're going to slide in and the other's going to meet. So it's the same shape that I'm going to do 4 times but position it in different places. So with each door, and there are 4 sliding parts to this door, each door has 4 sliding parts and there are 4 components per door. So it can get a little bit messy. So this setup, it gets tricky. So when you get here, all these parts will be moving along these 4 panels. Now the trick here is that we're going to leave these paths continually moving. But what we are going to need is we're going to need a tool here to keep resetting the items so they go back and move into place. Because when you add an item to a path, it will start to move straight away. So we're going to create a little temporary button to help us make us check that the objects are moving correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my creativity toys, and I'm going to go back up and collect a button tool. Like I say, this button here is not going to be used in the program at all. This is purely to help us set it up, to keep resetting it. So I need it in a position where it's not going to get in the way. So I've got to keep it to one side. I'm going to leave it to this side because this is where I'm building all my parts. So now what I've got to do with this button is that every time I press this button, I've got 4 paths I have to change. So I'm going to do on button press. Can I not stop it, just reset and play that particular path? Okay. And guess what? I'm going to do this now 4 times. So square button again, new logic connection. When pressed, go to my other path, reset and play. And I'm going to do it again for the other ones. So just that every time I add the pieces, and you'll find me get quite repetitive on this one, we'll hit this button and they'll all move into place. One key thing I'm going to do as well is I'm going to give you some positions on where you set those parts on the path. Yeah, so make sure to make a note of those. And because there's so many parts, this clip did take a little bit longer than planned. So I'll try and speed through it as much as possible and condense it down. Okay, so we've got those 4 parts on it. So now that we've got them on, that's now set up. I can come out of there. I can now worry about my actual tool. So we'll pick out the first item. So let's grab one of these boxes here. And we'll take the first piece, the top piece. Yeah, so I'm going to do a square button on that, and I'm going to position that, so new path connection, and I'm going to connect it to that part tool. And straight away, when I connect to there, that part now starts moving across. And the paths for all these are to loop through. So then I have to select the item and go to properties. Now this is the top piece, okay? So what we need to do here is we have to change it. Now you'll see you have various settings, and depending how many objects you've got in your game, depending on where you adjust those. Yeah, and if you've got a load of objects, you won't see any movement until you hit the reset. So what I need to do here is I need to move the top piece back. I need to move it back 8 places, and I need to move the vertical up 4. So that top piece is horizontal 8 and the top vertical is 4. And I also, if you notice, changed to go back and forth. Okay, so that option is now set up. Now pick up another piece. This is the back square one. Now you know that piece above, I moved it 8 places back. Well, it's not the same because it's a smaller box. So actually, the square box property, we're going to move 10 places back. So the end piece, we have to move 10 places. So we go on here. Oops, I've used the wrong place. And you'll see sometimes they move, sometimes they won't move at all and you can't see them. But it's the forward and backward position, and I want to move that back 10. So I'm just going to slide that across, and you'll see when you're going the wrong way, but it's backwards on the 10. Okay, 10 places. And then I'm going to go down, and I'm going to make that go back and forth as well. Okay, so just be aware of those items. So the bottom corner is displaced by 10. Make a change to the option there to go back and forth. And the back and forth setting is just like the elevator that we did in my previous clip. Okay, so now if I press that button, that will reset the items, and those two now move together in the right place. So far that's exactly how I like the doors to work. So we'll pick the next one. Now, just to be pointed, I've left the front piece to last because the front piece is the very first one, which I don't have to move at all. So let's connect this one back up. Now this square here, when we click on the square, properties again, we have to move this one, and this one moves back 6 places. Okay, so set that to 6. So the top is 8 and the vertical is 4. The end is 10 horizontal, and the first square is 6 horizontal. And that is now moving back and forth, and we now look, they are now moving perfectly together. Occasionally you get a little bit of a delay on the move, so if you need to, hit your reset button and it should sort that out. That works out. So the last piece here, the last piece is in the exact position we want, so we don't want to move it anywhere, so I'm just going to connect that to the path. So I can connect that to the path, and it doesn't matter where you connect it, even if it's out of sync, because what I can do now is go into the properties of that. Now no horizontal or vertical movement is needed, so all I need to do with this one is change it to be movement back and forth. Okay, so now that's back and forth, yeah. If I come out of there, circle out. Okay, it's working. Hit my reset button. And there is my sliding panel of the door. That's it working. So what we need to do now is exactly the same, but for the top end, but in the reversed order. So it's going down, so I'm going to have to use the different pieces. So I need to go back to my basic shapes. And we'll set this one up. So go back to basic shapes. I'm going to build what the one's going to look like. So we got go a little bit higher. And some strange reason, when I move these, you'll see these, it won't let me drop that box in. It goes red on the screen. So don't can't have it. So sometimes it gets a little bit weird, and the logic gets a little bit confused. So I'll move a little bit higher. So I want this box here. May have placed it too high. So that's the first box. That's the next piece. And then I need obviously 2 squares. So that panel is going to go across the top rail. Okay, and the panel that we're looking at doing the connection is the bottom one. So the first one, is the top left. So this one is like the reverse way, is our top box. So we're going to connect onto that point. We're going to new path connection, and we're going to click that to our top rail. And that now connects to the rail and going on the screen. And you'll see it does it at the very bottom of the screen. So I now need to lower that down so it's fitting flush on the screen. So to lower this one, the top one here is -8. So let's go to our properties. The vertical position, we have to bring it down by 8. Okay, so we'll change this on our settings. And sometimes, depending on where we move, it goes back and forth. So it's -8 here, not 4, -8. And that brings us right down to the bottom. And I actually need to make it along the horizontal. I need to go back 8 as well. So forward and backwards. So this time forward and back goes side to side. So I do want the horizontal setting. And I've tried this in different times. And sometimes you have to check to see if it's the forward or the horizontal. It's not always the case. Right, and I want to move this back. So there you go, that's the one I want. And I want to go back -8. So when it's upside down, the foot is basically 8 by 8. Okay, I think they've got that ready. And the last thing you must make sure you change . So on the screen, go back onto there. I need to make sure it's back and forth, and that now is moving back and forth on the box, which is good. If I reset that, you watch, you'll notice that they should now perfectly meet. So these 2 items are going to slide back and forth, and the position of those parts, which is definitely 5 along, but the 3 between the 2 works. So I now need to go back. Oops, gone too far there. Jumped into Spark mode now. So let's go back into Spark mode, making sure not to delete anything. Right, now in this case here I'm going to click on these boxes. So I'm going to do the end box. So click on that box there, new path connection, link it to the item we've got. Now the difference is here is it always places, when you add it to the path, at the bottom. So I do actually in this case have to move it down slightly. So, and to move this down, you're always going to have to go down by 4. So I'm going to go to path connection. To bring it down to the path on the top is vertical 4. So bring the vertical down. And this is reversed to the other one, so it is actually still 10. So we set vertical's got to go down 4. Where you go? So it's 4 in the box and horizontal 10. Exactly the same problem. The difference is we're lowering it down though. So we go down 4, horizontal 10. That should be it. Happy with that. Change the loop option on here to go back and forth. Right, let's do the other box. Now again, the other box on the other side, when we did the option was 6, so it's going to be on our setting here. So let's go onto that option. Move it across. Let's go to our properties. Let's bring that down. So if you look at the settings that I've set this through, so I'm going to go to my horizontal setting. I'm going to bring that back to 6. I believe it's 6. And I'm going to lower it down vertically 4. Oops, too much. So there's that box, and then I can do the last one. Must change the movement style to back and forth, otherwise the door will just close, and that'll be it. With this particular tool, be very careful with the spark mode. I preach about this all the time, but you don't want to accidentally delete it out. Right, so we're connecting the final piece up. And the nice thing with this one, this is the final piece, so all we've got to do is lower it down by 4. So that all that is, the vertical is 4 on the list. Change that to 4, done. Make it back and forth. So if we now go back in there, back and forth, if we come out of our spark mode once we do that, you'll see them all moving all over the place now, but if we come here, making sure, press F1 to exit. Alright, circle out. Now as my Boba Fett character, I press the button and they're now joined. Now when I did the clip, I recorded both sets, but the problem I've got is that it took far too long to get this clip out. So we're going to just repeat the same exercise we've just done, but the other way around. So the doors have to be sliding. So I'm going to slightly cheat and jump a stage now, because it's just repeating exactly what I've done for the other panel doors. So in a second you'll see what I mean. So I'll just jump now to the next stage. And there you go. I've got all the doors now connected up. And you'll notice I've got them going the other way. So if I press my button, press it again, they are my sliding doors. At the first glance when I did that, I thought, that don't look right. Yeah? But when you surround it with the brackets and walls, it works out quite well. So all we've got to do now is make the thing become interactive. So if you remember of our previous clip with the Death Star lifts, we need a couple of logic gates to switch the thing on and off, and we need some buttons to trigger it. So let's go back to our creativity toys. Okay, so we go back to our toys. Now we need some logic gates. So the first logic gate is to switch the thing off. The second logic gate is to switch the things back on. Okay, and it makes life a lot easier to control our signals. So we're going to have one logic gate there. We'll tidy this up later. I never know where to put these to start with. And one logic gate to switch them back on. And the other thing I do need is I need a switch. Now we're not going to use a button, because we want to do it like the film and shoot the blast door, so we'll have a target button instead. Okay, so just click that there. We'll tidy that up in a moment, we're not too worried about it at this present stage. So there now we've got is our logic gates. So what I now need to do is need to make sure that I can stop the logic gates on the screen. So there are 4 points here. You don't have to do every point, because they're moving together. I can control them all in one place. So when we get to one of those points, so I'm going to use logic point, when this point is reached, yeah, so we're going to click on when we reach that point, I want to go to that logic gate and I want to fire a signal into that logic gate. So can we input a signal to that logic gate? Yeah. Now like I say, you don't need to do the other points, because as they move together they should all reach the same point at the same time. So what I can do is on output of this logic gate, yeah, what I'm going to do here is press this button and I'm going to turn the thing off. Yeah. So output from this logic gate, but I've got to do it to all 4 areas. So this is where it comes a little painstakingly pain in the neck, and at some point Disney will release a blast door component, I'm sure of it, so I'll put this video clip to waste, but in the meantime while we wait for that we have to create our own. So again, on output, can you turn the other doors off and switch them off? Now one thing you've noticed here, by the way, theoretically they have reached that point, so they should have stopped. And occasionally this doesn't happen, which gives you a worry that hold and Simon, you haven't done it. And I've left this in because it didn't work when I was doing this clip, thinking, hold on, it hasn't worked. So in the various test ones I did, it worked first time. So on output, but it's not stopping. It hasn't stopped at all. So they've all the logic set, and when it reaches that point, it should switch it off. So theoretically, the other point is not reaching that gate, but it should do. There's nothing stopping it. Okay, now the logic is correct, and when we save it, it will rectify the issue, which is the weird thing, is when we save that, that will refix it and reset that option, but we know that connection is correct. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pick one of the end pieces. Only need to do one of them, and we say, right, when we get, and we scroll down to this, just like we did with the lift option, when we reach this checkpoint, yeah, it's exactly the same thing again, can we input a signal into that particular state? Same thing. Now the nice thing is, because they're linked to the other point, they now all stop. And look, hey presto, strangely that has now worked. Yeah, it will work on the other side, trust me, when we reload it, but that is now connected. But guess what? I didn't have to reset those doors up. Now on this button, we're going to put a logic on. When I hit that button, I'm going to input a signal into this logic gate. Okay, and then that section will now go and turn all those points back on. Yeah, so on output, we now have to go to all 4 points, and we now have to set these to say, yes, when we connect this, can we turn you back on? Right, next one again. So again, square button, new logic connection, on output. And another thing I keep preaching in my clips are these logic gates. Get in the habit of using them as the central thing that passes the information across. Because in a moment, we're going to want to put another button in. And if you'd done all the logic on one button, you'd have to repeat that logic again. Here we don't, we only have to do it once. So look, the logic's going to all the 4 points. So new connection, when output, can we turn these all back on? Do the last one underneath, if I can get my, ooh, gone way off there this time. Just try and line this back up. Finally get there, oh, come on. That's painful, sorry. There you go, there we go. Right, and switch you back on. That should have all be done. Okay, so that's now set. Okay, which is great. So I've got that set up on logic. When I press that button, that will pick those items out. Be careful not to delete anything. Let's circle out. Right, also I'm just going to chuck in another button here. Right, so if I chuck another button on this side, so I've got a button either side. Now the beauty on here is if I press this button, I would have to, if I'd done the logic, I have to go and do all the 4 points again. But here I don't. I just do one on hit, just fire to the second gate. So now 2 buttons have, and that all logic is done. That is why logic gates are so much better. I don't have to redo anything again. I could add a 3rd button if I want to. Now the good thing is, don't need that anymore. That's all done. So we can get rid of that. That can now go. To delete that option, we have our buttons on the screen. So if I come out of this, I'm always making sure not to, when I'm in Spark mode, not to delete anything. Okay, so what we basically do is if we shoot that, that should now turn the button on. So we come back to this side. So I can shoot either one. They should now close. And it should stay closed, but it's not working on this screen. So what we're going to do now is I'm now going to save my level, and I'm going to reload it back up without changing anything. So I'll do a cut scene of this, me saving the program and just testing it, but not changing any of the logic. So at this present moment, you think the thing hasn't worked. So let's do a quick save. Right, I've just reloaded it back up, reload set, and if I shoot the gates, you'll now notice without changing anything, the logic now stops. It now actually works, which is sometimes a bit frustrating when you're doing it. Sometimes it works first time, sometimes it wasn't, so be careful. But if I press that button, that'll search back up. Now what we're going to do now is put the surrounding banner around to it. The reason why I've cut this scene is I couldn't get any shapes to add to the side. The path tool was in the way, it wouldn't let me put in the object. So every time I put an object on the side, it wouldn't work. So I was trying to put different settings through. I was getting slightly frustrated on the clip, going, why can't I now fill this in? And again, depending on different game modes I've tried, as you'll see, I tried to put this shape in, it just wouldn't let me put the shape through on the side. There's no reason why it shouldn't do it, but strangely enough, if I put it the other side, it does work. So then what I thought is, I know what to do is, we'll put some blocks in. So I'm just going to put some blocks either side, so we can't see the slope. So I'm going to drop that down there. So I've got my little door side. So there's ways of cheating, but I want to hide the hinge and the movements on the side. So I'm putting these 4 little blocks here because for some reason the path tool wouldn't let me do anything on one particular end. So now I'm happy with that box there, which is good. What I'm going to do now is pick a different shape. So if I go to my buildings and then go to my Death Star, right, put a couple of small Death Star pieces at the side. So again, chuck that in at the side, So that now goes in against the side perfectly, no problem at all. And I can do the same on the other side, so they list up quite nicely. So before I can do that, but I can fill them all in lovely. All the mechanics are hidden out of the way, you'll never know. So that's now all hidden. Okay, so what we can do now is we need to move the button. And you can move objects as well. So even though you've got this object here, be careful. If I'm in Spark mode, if I go back to my target button, if I press the X, not the circle because it'll delete it, I can now reposition that where I want it, and the logic will stay with it as well. So I'm going to now fix that on that panel there. Okay, go back in Spark mode again, go through the walls, and I'm going to move this one off that side and twist that round and put that on there. So that's my button on that screen. And the last thing we need to do is colour in the boxes, make them look a bit more Death Star-y, so if that's such a word. So let's highlight our boxes, get our wand out, pick our palette tool, I'm hitting the triangle button, and now you've got to find the Imperial Death Star colour. And these tools are in your toy store, so try and find these if you can buy these items. Get all the way across. There we go, Death Star tile, theme all, yes. And now, hey presto, we now have our door complete. At first glance it looks like it's missed some, it's just the way it's looking on the screen. So if I now circle out of this, and we'll just do a test. But you can't do a Death Star without blast doors. Right, and it looks quite neat with the tunnel going through the screen now. So if I now give this a quick test and shoot those doors, now that looked impressive. It looked a lot better than they did when it was in the wooden blocks. Well, that is my blast door clip. I hope you found that of use. Cheers for all the support you guys are giving. I really, all the comments have been great. I'll try and keep on coming some more stuff up. And I hope you like this within your Death Star one. Best luck on building it, and hope you can follow all the instructions.